They say the playoffs are all about matchups. But sometimes, it's about myth, narrative, legacy. And no team in recent memory embodies that more than the Golden State Warriors. Sure, on paper, they're just a 7th seed. But let's be real, they're not your average underdog. After bouncing Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies in the play-in, they've swaggered into the first round against the upstart Houston Rockets, not as long shots, but as betting favorites. That's only happened once before in NBA history. Back in 2021 when the Lakers, led by LeBron James, were favored as a 7th seed. We all remember how that turned out. LeBron was eliminated in the first round for the first time in his career. A harsh reminder that history doesn't always play fair. Now, let's talk about precedent. A 7th seed moving past the first round? It's rare, but not unheard of. The 87 Sonics, 89 and 91 Warriors, the 98 Knicks, 2010 Spurs, and the 2023 Lakers, they all pulled off the improbable. And don't forget the We Believe Warriors of 2007. They weren't just underdogs, they rewrote the definition, toppling the #1 seed Mavericks in what's still considered one of the biggest upsets in NBA playoff history. And what about those magical 8 seed runs? From the 94 Nuggets to the 2023 Heat, these teams didn't just survive, they made statements. And in almost a third of these major playoff upsets, one of two names keeps showing up, the Warriors or Jimmy Butler. So here we are again. The table is set for another shakeup. The Warriors are back in the dance, and Jimmy Butler, now a Warrior himself, adds a new wrinkle to the mix. Everything points toward another storybook chapter for Golden State. But here's where it gets interesting. What if I told you that the secret weapon in this series isn't Steph Curry, or Jimmy Butler, or even the heartbeat of the team, Draymond Green? What if the key to this entire run, the real X-factor, is a 22-year-old who spent the last 2 must-win games glued to the bench? Welcome to the most important postseason of Jonathan Kuminga's young career. And possibly, the Warriors too. The Warriors' current playoff run isn't just about experience or championship pedigree. It's about adaptability and how you exploit matchups. And if there's one matchup that could quietly tip the scales in Golden State's favor, it's Jonathan Kuminga versus the Houston Rockets. Let's rewind. Before the Warriors' play-in game against Memphis, something strange happened. Kuminga wasn't at the team's pre-game huddle. In fact, he didn't even show up on the bench until minutes after tip-off. On paper, it looked like he was being phased out of the rotation. But matchups dictate lineups, and Kuminga just didn't fit against the Grizzlies' gritty, half-court style. But Houston, that's a different story. Houston's athletic, fast-paced, and loaded with young wings who pressure the ball. In that kind of series, Kuminga's skill set, athleticism, rim pressure, and defensive versatility isn't just useful. It's potentially game-changing. In 4 games this season against the Rockets, Kuminga averaged 21.3 points and 6.8 rebounds while shooting over 50% from the field and a stunning 42% from 3. That's not just solid. That's elite. And when you zoom in further, the numbers pop. In the 2 games Golden State won, Kuminga averaged over 26 points in just 30 minutes per game. Efficient. Explosive. Impactful. One play stands out. Late-game situation. Curry, Butler, and Draymond are all out. Kuminga isolates against Dillon Brooks, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He reads the help defense, splits the double, and hits the clutch bucket through contact. That's not just a highlight, that's proof of concept. Meanwhile, the veterans have struggled. Steph Curry, as iconic as he is, has averaged just 16.3 points per game on 36% shooting versus the Rockets this season. It's his second-worst shooting performance against any team, trailing only the Cavaliers. Jimmy Butler has been slightly better, but still hasn't cracked 17 points per game. In contrast, Kuminga has looked like Golden State's best player whenever he's been on the floor against Houston. And there's a trend. The more he plays, the more the Warriors tend to win. The eye test confirms what the numbers show. His physicality, his vertical pop, and his ability to get to the rim give Houston real problems. But it goes beyond stats. Kuminga's energy changes the tone of the game. He plays at a different speed. In transition, he's a one-man fast break. And in the half-court, his slashing forces Houston's defense to collapse in ways that Curry and Butler, at this stage in their careers, just can't replicate consistently. He's not just a bench spark. In this matchup, he might be the guy. But for Kuminga to shift the series, one thing has to happen first. He has to get on the court. Here's the catch. Jonathan Kuminga might be the Warriors' best weapon against Houston. But unlocking him comes with a price, and that price might be Jimmy Butler. Now on the surface, that sounds crazy. Why would you limit minutes for a 6-time All-Star, a finals veteran, a two-way leader who has made a career out of rising in the postseason? But basketball isn't played on paper. It's played in space, in rhythm, in roles, and in the small, often invisible details of how 5 players fit together. And when you start peeling back the layers, the problem becomes clearer. Let's talk fit. Both Jimmy and Kuminga operate best in the same real estate. Mid-post, elbow extended, attacking off the dribble, drawing contact, collapsing the defense. Both are slashers. Both rely on physicality. Both are subpar outside shooters. Butler hits timely shots, sure, but neither stretches the floor consistently. In today's NBA, where spacing is king, having two players who live in the paint and struggle from deep can cramp your offense fast, especially when you're surrounded by non-shooters or hesitant shooters like Draymond Green. And the results bear it out. According to film and plus-minus data, the Jimmy-Kuminga combination hasn't worked. Offensively, the spacing gets tight. Defensively, they occasionally switch into awkward mismatches. The rhythm suffers, and so does the team's cohesion. When both are on the court, Golden State tends to play slower, less fluid basketball, which plays right into Houston's hands. Steve Kerr knows this. That's why he's been cautious. He said it himself. I have to read what we need. I have to read who's playing well together. And to be very frank, the Jimmy-JK combination has not been great. It's a rare moment of transparency from a coach who usually plays things close to the vest. And so Kerr is faced with a brutal choice. Do you trust the vet? The proven playoff killer with a finals resume and a $121 million extension in his back pocket? Or do you bet on the 22-year-old athletic freak who's still raw, still inconsistent, but quite possibly the best matchup advantage you have in this series? The stakes couldn't be higher, for both players. Jimmy didn't come to Golden State to lose in the first round. He came to get Steph Curry his fifth ring, and maybe grab his own in the process. But Kuminga, he's not just playing for a title. He's playing for his future. Kuminga's coming off career lows in games played, field goal percentage, and three-point shooting. And now, with Jimmy locked in for the next 2 years, the writing might be on the wall. There may be no role left for Kuminga in the Bay, and certainly no money. This playoff run might be his audition for the rest of the league. So here we are. You've got a team chasing one last shot at a dynasty. You've got a Hall of Famer in Steph Curry who doesn't have time to wait. You've got Jimmy Butler, all grit and fire, looking to win the hard way. And you've got Kuminga, a player on the verge of either a breakout or a breakup. Basketball is about sacrifice. But sometimes, it's also about risk. Because the team that figures out how to balance both might just walk out of this series with something bigger than a first-round win. They might walk out with a future. We're heading into the heart of the playoffs, and the pressure isn't just on Steph. It's not just on Draymond, or even Jimmy Butler. The spotlight is on Jonathan Kuminga. Not because the Warriors want it that way, but because the situation demands it. This series against Houston, it's tailor-made for a player like him. Young, explosive, fearless, the kind of athlete who can crack through a defense that's designed to wear veterans down. The kind of player who can make plays that stats can't predict. The kind of player who forces the opponent to adjust. But none of that matters unless he's on the floor. Kuminga's challenge now isn't just to produce. It's to force the coaching staff's hand. To play so well, so decisively, that he becomes undeniable. Because if he doesn't, if the Warriors ride the vets and win without him, he could be walking into the most important summer of his career with a stock that's never been lower. And here's the kicker, every team in the league is watching. This is more than just a playoff series. It's a live audition. For a new contract. A new role. Maybe a new home. Think about it, in the modern NBA, wings like Kuminga are gold. Teams are starving for two-way forwards with bounce, strength, and upside. He could be a foundational piece on a young squad, or the missing piece on a contender. But what version of Kuminga are we going to see? Will it be the one who blows by defenders, soars through contact, and throws down a poster that flips the game on its head? Or the one who loses a defensive assignment, throws a wild pass into the third row, and ends up watching from the bench as the season slips away? That's the duality of a player like JK. Feast or famine. Highlight reel or DNP-CD. But if he hits, if he finds a rhythm, locks in, and owns the moment, this series won't be remembered for Steph's stepbacks or Jimmy's steals. It'll be remembered as the moment Jonathan Kuminga arrived. And maybe, just maybe, it'll be the spark that lights one final run for the Golden State Warriors. Because dynasties aren't built by staying safe. They're built by believing in the right player at the right time, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. So the question isn't just, will Kuminga get minutes? The real question is, do you believe?